Okay, so now we're going to talk about above playfield lamps, whether they're lamps or flashers. So I've gone ahead and done some bits and pieces here already. So I've made a new layer called lights above. So we've had lights insert, which is the playfield level stuff. This is lights above, so it's up in the air. If you look over at the manual, you'll see some of these lights don't have like a associated insert shape with them, which makes life easier because you know that actually they're probably ones that are above. So in this case, you've got 18 and 44, which are the two um, eyes of the bony beast. So if we go into here, um, there we go, look at that. So you've got the two eyes there, the flasher nose. Um, so we know the eyes are up in the air. They're actually a bit low here, so we put them up a bit higher. Um, so you position these the same way you position the other ones. These are the sets of eyes that are on the crate. So if you look at the crates, you can actually see each pair of LEDs is a set of eyes. So they're those three. This one here is a bit more of a tricky one to find in that this lock lamp here doesn't actually have anything on this. This is what you get occasionally. Occasionally you'll get a light, an above playfield light or a flasher somewhere that isn't referenced in the manual, and the reason for that is it's teed off the main light. So this is actually off of 56. So 56 is this insert here, the lock insert. So this is just a set of wires coming off it to make this one light as well. So we've called this L56A, but it's still got the timer saying 56. 54 down here is a bit weird in that it's a floodlight, um, which is here. There's probably a better photo of it. There you go, pointed at the coffin. So we've made that one a bit bigger because it's a floodlight. These are only for playfield reflections. So you highlight them all. Remember to put them in the all lamps collection. So remember, it's the lamp name plus the timer with the right one. So now, because they're up in the air, we want to make sure that the Z position, so vertical position, is 150 and the halo height's at 150. So this means that everything's you can make the bulb physical. So if I click that, you'll see that the circle appears there, and that's actually a physical bulb um, image, but we don't want that, so we can turn that one off. Um, so they're all your above playfield lamps, and you repeat them as necessary. Next off, we're going to do the flashers. So I borrowed insert lights for these and a GI light for this and raised them up in the air. Because they're reflections, we keep them the right colours. Right, the flashers, same sort of thing. I used the GI lights, copied them, but we name these. So if we go to flashers, they're all under solenoids. So you go through and you look at all your flashers, and then what I do is I go into the script and I translate them all. So I use a description, which is here. So like 17 is, it says here, top jet flasher. But then I'll say top jet flash, and I'll say pop bumper 1. Because this is, again, you're going back to your reference photos and going, actually, get rid of that. Yeah, pop jet flashers. So figure out where they are. In this case, they're on top of the pop bumpers. So if we can go to outline, we can position them so they're on top of the pop bumpers. And you go through the rest of this. So the bolts flasher. So where we had the flasher inserts earlier on, we've got these bolt flashers down here in the playfield. Skull flasher left. Now this is where it gets really tricky sometimes. These two up here were a nightmare to find. You only see them, there's only one photo I've got which actually shows them. Normally, you see this space here, you haven't got anything showing. But I found one of these photos with the lights in. So this is behind the bony guys. So these guys here, so you can't even see them, but they light up behind. There. So one's blue, one's white, which is skull flasher left, blue skull flasher, white skull flasher. Center TV's down there, and then we actually have got the in left ramp flasher inside Bodie's skull. So this actually has got two flashers. It's a bit hard to track down this one again as well. And I only found it later on afterwards when I was looking around, because you saw these ones here, and I was like, okay, that's where the flash lives. That's obvious. But then I was going through some photos and found this photo, and there's actually one screwed to the playfield underneath the ramp as well. And it's the same one. Like I said before, sometimes they're teed off. Sometimes in the manual, it will actually say that there's two in there, but not always. Sometimes it will say ×2. See, like that one there, playfield bolts 2. However, it doesn't seem to say that for the, what is this, 23. Flasher, it just says there's one flasher, but it is actually repeated. So we go through all of those, and then we look at the loads of orbs. Again, you have to go through and look at the photos. So you know roughly where they are by looking at the photos. You know, this one's just underneath there, on top of that. This one's there. So you can get a good idea of where they are. And all these positionings and all the heights are rough at the moment because you're only using these for reflections, but then you can adjust for when they appear. So to make sure that the inserts were the lights were quite easy in that we just hooked them up the normal way, like lights and the timer. Flashes, however, have to be a little bit different. So what we have to do is I make these temporary subs. They can be useful permanently, but so you just sol mod callback. Now this mod in the middle is what's different than the normal sol callback. This means it can come back. A sol callback is either on or off, whereas these can be gradients. So it's got a much more granular level of control. So you put equals and call it something like that, sol flash 17. Then I've gone through all of these, made a sub for each one, and just made the state of the light equal level. And that will basically make the light different values for whatever level it returns. And gone through and done all of this. And then what you do when you want to double check that and you've done all this, you think you got it right, you start the game. Now you see the above playfield lights flashing. Might look like they're back, sometimes might look like they're odd, but this is where they are. So if you move the playfield around, see they're up in the air. It's a good way for testing as well to make sure you've got the right things and make sure they're behaving themselves. Another thing you can do, I'm going to start this back up. If you want to make sure of what the naming conventions are, because the manuals aren't always right, but if you go into the test menu and you go to flashers, flasher test, and you go through the flasher test, it will not only flash the right flasher for you, but it tells you what their names are. So playfield bolts. See that way, I know that I've forgot to hook one of them up because it's duplicated. because it's only doing the left-hand side. So you can go through and get your naming conventions as well and make sure everything's right. So I know that one there, left front flasher, that's not correct. So I need to go back and check some bits and pieces. And that is how you hook up flashers and above table lamps in VPX. There's more obviously that can be done, but that's the basics of actually getting them up and running.